Nice to see everybody in here. We got a pretty big crowd. I'm excited to be able to present this to you guys when the opportunity came up to us a couple of days back last week. We were eager to get something together to share with you. I'm a big gamer myself, so is Mr. Thomas Sanders. Been gamers since we were kids. So this is definitely an industry that we're interested in. It's awesome that Baltimore City Public Schools is able to offer you guys this type of program. Take advantage of this. This is college level stuff. Most students don't get a chance to see this until maybe their second, third year in college, and depending on what college they go to, because not a lot of colleges and universities offer these type of programs. Our youngest brother, Mr. Nicholas Sanders, had to go all the way to Cleveland in order to pursue his degree in video game art and design. So having something like this right here in your hometown, local to you, even before you get to that college level, is awesome. Please take advantage of it. And hopefully after today's session, you'll have an opportunity to kind of better plan out what your pathway into the gaming industry is going to look like. So without further ado, I'll do some brief introductions. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Mr. Thomas will tell you about himself. And then I want to do a little bit of icebreaker activity with you guys. But first, my name is Willie Sanders. I'm a professor at Towson University and at University of Maryland's Global Campus. I'm also the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called Pass It On. We're an IT training organization. We train people in computer technology, all aspects of computer technology and STEM-related activities. We teach youth and adults, and our mission is to close the technology skills gap. There are people who have the ability to be able to do technology, but might not have access to a class like this. So we want to be able to provide that to them so that they can get the training, because there's a lot of opportunities out there in the technical fields. I'll hand it over to Mr. Thomas. He could tell a little bit about himself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thomas Sanders. I am the Director of Youth Outreach for the nonprofit Pass It On. Part of what we do is not only with adult learning and developing certifications, but we also, as part of the youth outreach program, we develop curriculums for young people like you all, where we create classes, for, different aspects of STEM as well as STEAM. A lot of you may know of STEM, science, tech, engineering, mathematics, but what they also want to incorporate is the creative and performing arts as well. So that's why they call it STEAM now. And so this is a great opportunity. Game art and design is great because it integrates all of the science and the tech and the engineering and the mathematics that you all learn into that creative arts. And which is great because a lot of what you'll learn in game art and design can be transferred not just in that field, but also in other forms of media and entertainment, such as films and movies. And as we go further into our meeting today, we're going to show you some of the programs and things that they, like I said, they not only use just for game art and design, but also in film and in television as well.
Awesome. So let me share my screen out so you guys can see our presentation. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. Feel free to respond in the chat if we ask a question too. All right, let me share this screen out. Okay, cool. All right, so the name of our presentation today is Game On, Exploring the Gaming Industry. Again, being presented by Pass It On Inc. By myself and Mr. Thomas Sanders. This is an overview of what we're going to be covering. First, we did our intros. We're going to do a quick icebreaker activity that I want you guys to participate in. So again, feel free to drop your responses in the chat. Let me bring my chat up so I can make sure I see what you guys are typing. Cool. There we go. And then we'll dive into game industry 101 so that you can get a good foundational understanding of what the game industry actually is. Then we'll look at some of the skills and tools that you'll need to develop if you want to get into that industry. We're going to show you a tool that you can start working with right now that will help you develop those game design skills. And maybe for my folks who are entrepreneurs, maybe even show you how to make some money right now with those skill sets. I'm using a platform called Roblox, which I'm sure most of you probably heard of. And then we're going to look at navigating the job boards and how to use different job postings to help you, again, plan out what your future is going to look like. After that, we're going to open up the floor. We're going to have some question and answers, and hopefully we can be able to get to a lot of people's questions in our time frame. All right, so let's start off. Let's talk about this icebreaker, this intro. So for the group, anybody who wants to respond in the chat, let's introduce ourselves. Let's talk about, give me your name. Tell me what school or organization you're from. If you're a teacher, what your role is, or if you're a student, just put student because that's your role. Maybe what program you're in at your school, and then this is the important question: were or are you a gamer? If you are a gamer, let us know what tell me your all-time favorite game. It could be an arcade game, it could be console, computer, or even a mobile game. Tell me what your all-time favorite game is. I'm gonna start off. Again, my name is Professor Willie Sanders. I'm with Pass It On. My role is executive director, and I am a gamer. Let me see. All-time favorite game. You probably don't know this one. My all-time favorite game was this game that used to be on the very first PlayStation. It's called Command and Conquer. It's a strategy game where you have your own little army. And the way that the way that I used to play it with my friends in college this is before internet gaming and online gaming. We would literally connect our PlayStations together with a cord and have two separate TVs. And I would have my one army, and the person I was playing against would have their one army, and our whole screen would be shrouded in black. And the point of the game is we had to find the other teams in their enemy base, and we had to take out their base before they took out your base. So it was a super fun game. We used to play it all the time. So that's my favorite. I'm gonna kick it over to Mr. Thomas Sanders. He's gonna tell us a little bit about him and his favorite games. All right.
Okay. Once again, my name is Thomas Sanders. I'm the director of youth outreach for Pass It On. Yes, I am a gamer. As a matter of fact, wow. It's hard to say an all-time favorite game.
All right.
I'll say currently I'm playing Division 2. They just added an awesome update where it's like this 100 floor tower that you have to go through, survival mode. And then also Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah.
It's probably like this in the past year or so has been my favorite game because I love sword fighting games. Sword
right.
As well as like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I like sword. I like fighting with swords in games. That's just like my all time.
Okay, I'm looking in the chat now. I'm seeing some good games in here, man. Jalen's, I said he's a gamer. Full Diver is his game. Allison, World of Warcraft. I see you. PC gamer. All right. Sean, mobile gamer. Pug Mobile. Let's see what else we got. We got from Digital Harbor, Nicholas. GoldenEye. Okay. GoldenEye used to be the game back in the day. Nintendo 64. Okay. He's probably playing an updated version though. Okay. Let's see. Miss Bowen's got on the list. Okay. Miss Bowen said Mortal Kombat and Sonic the Hedgehog. And she's not even a gamer. She said she's not a gamer, but still Mortal Kombat, Sonic the Hedgehog. You can't go wrong with those. All right, who else we got? We do a couple more. All right, so Dr. Patterson, Zelda and Metroid. Right, Legend of Zelda. That's what I'm talking about. That was like our first adventure game on Nintendo. It's like right. Legend of Zelda. That was a game. Okay, let's see. Landis from Digital Harbor, Saints Row 2.
Oh, that's my favorite, Saints Row.
Okay. Trina, sorry, not Trina. That's not Trina. It's Trina. Rod, Madden. I was waiting for Madden to pop up on it. I was waiting for Madden to pop up on it. Okay. Okay. DeMontez not a gamer. That's cool. For my folks who aren't gamers, as we go through this presentation, what you're going to find is that the gaming industry offers a lot of opportunities, even if you're not a gamer, right? Even if you're not, the person who wants to code game or draw out characters or design levels. If you want to do, like, say you want to be a business person, guess what? The gaming industry is a business. They need business people. They need computer people. They need, people who know how to market and sell things. There's a lot of different other job opportunities in the game industry outside of just those opportunities where you're actually involved in the development and the creation of a game. So even if you're not a gamer, you can still work in the gaming industry. So just kind of keep that in mind. We'll do like 3 more. Got a lot of Digital Harbor. Digital Harbor's in the house over here. Okay. Puzzle games and horror games. Okay. I don't want to mispronounce your name. Amelie. Is that right? Okay. And then Warframe. Jalen said Warframe. Yeah.
That's a great one.
And let me grab one more.
Cold War from Taiwan.
All right. And then I was waiting for somebody to shout out Mario. Anna, Super Mario Kart. Yes. GameCube. Awesome. Those are some awesome games, guys. Thank you for participating in that icebreaker. Got a lot of gamers in the house. That's a good thing. So let's talk about this gaming industry. Gaming industry 101. So the video game industry. See, here's some highlights. The gaming industry is actually an extension of the computer industry, which is what you'll find is that as new technologies come out, and as those technologies evolve, what'll happen eventually is they'll branch off and they'll create these other sub industries. So think about cars, right? The car was invented, and then that started the car industry. But then there's a lot of things that go into making a car, right? You have a radio in the car. You have different types of engines, tires. So around that car industry, that automotive industry, all of these other industries sprung up that branched off of it. Same thing is true of the computer industry. As the computer industry started to evolve, we started to think about different ways we could use computers. And one of those ways that we use computers is for entertainment. So that birthed this idea of having games using that type of computer technology. But eventually, as it became more and more popular, it turned into a whole industry of its own. Nowadays, that industry is involved in the development, marketing, and monetization of video games. As I mentioned a second ago, there's tons of jobs in the video game industry, but not all of them are technical. You also have a great deal of the jobs being non-technical. You don't even touch a computer. Maybe touch a computer, but you're not actually involved in the creation of the game. You might be involved in selling the game or running a team for the game company, but there's a lot of other non-technical jobs that you can get in that field as well. And here's the big one. Video game industry is a $151 billion industry. I was reading an article talking about the gaming industry during COVID. They said that while other industries during this COVID lockdown have lost money, the gaming industry actually increased by billions of dollars because as people got locked in their house, they were like, I need something to do. Let me go buy a Nintendo Switch. Let me go buy a PlayStation 5 so that they have something to do while they're in the house. So the gaming industry is actually thriving because everybody's staying home. And now they've added millions and millions of other gamers, new gamers people who didn't play before are now playing video games because they wanted something to do while they were on quarantine, and now they're loving it and they're not going to go back. So the gaming industry is going to have more and more people to serve. And what they're looking is they're forecasting. That means they're projecting into the future that the gaming industry from now, which is a $151 billion industry, by 2025 is going to be a $256 billion industry. That's a lot of money. What that means is a lot of job opportunities. There's a lot of organizations that are going to be looking to staff up and hire as that industry continues to grow and grow and grow. So this is a good place to be. I was telling you guys, take advantage of this. It's free education y'all are getting, because this can be a lucrative field. And like Mr. Thomas alluded to, these skill sets that you'll develop won't only be used, they won't only be marketable directly with maybe a video game development company. You can take those same game design tools, if you want to be on the technical side, and take them over to DreamWorks and help make the next animated movie. Go over to Pixar. They're using the same tools that games use for animation to do animation in movies, to do special effects in television shows. So that's a skill that's transferable. You can take those design skills and move them over to other industries and still make really good money. All right, so when we look at the gaming industry has what they call every industry has what they call a value chain. It's basically a way of adding value to the company and to the consumer, the people who are purchasing the thing or the service that the company has to offer. And there's different levels to this value chain. The value chain for the gaming industry has 6 layers: the capital and publishing, the product and talent, product and production and tools, distribution, hardware and virtual machines. That's what VM stands for. And then end users. The reason we break it down like this is to show you the different areas that you can get involved in the gaming industry. I highlighted product and talent in blue because typically that product and talent, when we talk about an actual game design company, that's where they land. That's the area that they land in the value chain for the gaming industry. But all of those other areas of the value chain, 1 and then 3 through 6, they actually support that product and talent thing. So when I make a game, ultimately it's trying to go to an end user. An end user is the person who's going to actually play the game. So you can see how they all kind of connect together. We'll look real quick. Let's look at some a little bit more detail for each one of these items in that value chain. At the top, we have capital and publishing. These are the folks with the money. They're the ones who on the front end are saying, hey, somebody pitched us a good idea for a game. And I think we want to fund this. We want to make this game because I think that if we invest some money to make this game, we're going to get a lot of a return on our investment. Maybe we invest $100,000 to make this game, but we think it's going to be such a hit that for that $100,000 that we put up to make the game, we're going to make $3 million. So capital and punishment, capital and publishing they're the ones fronting the money so that these games can get made in the first place, and with the goal of making their money back plus a lot more off of the licensing of the titles. Licensing doesn't just mean the selling of the game, but anything that carries that game's likeness or name or anything like that. So think about Super Mario. Mario's probably the most recognizable gaming character in the gaming industry. Think about all of the things that Mario's face and likeness is attached to besides the game. I saw a commercial the other day for some Super Mario Brothers Legos. Lego had to pay the company who created Super Mario money to use Mario's likeness in that Lego set. So there's other ways, other things that those companies can use to make that money back too. But again, they're the ones with the deep pockets who are going to actually find those good game ideas and then pay for those games to be made. The next layer is the layer that you guys are probably most interested in. And Tom, can you monitor the chat for me, please? Just in case we have some questions pop up in there. The next layer is that product and talent layer. This is the layer that most of you guys are probably most interested in. This is where we have the folks who actually make the game. So they get the capital folks get the money. Now they hand it over to a company who's responsible for designing games. They start building it. They have the developers. The developers are a programmer. They have the designers, the people who are actually like artists, and they're designing how the characters are going to move. there are people who are actually going to, develop the way the characters look and the way the backgrounds for the game look, and all these different aspects of how this game is going to come together. Usually these people work in teams. You'll have what they call development houses or gaming houses or gaming shops where it's basically a company, and that's all they do is develop video games. You've seen their names before: Blizzard. What's some other big gaming houses?
So you have Epic.
Yeah, my mind went blank.
You know,
even Sega used to have a gaming house. I'm not sure if they're still developing games now, but these are companies where their sole purpose is to make video games. So that might be something of interest to anybody who's interested in being more on the technical side and you want to actually be a maker of games. But after that, linking the product, the chain, we have production and tools. When these game developers go to design these games, they're going to be using industry standard tools like software and processes in order to, and that should be an R in there, in order to create these games. We're going to talk about some of those tools in a couple of slides, but the companies themselves who make the games, they don't make those tools. They purchase those tools from an organization whose job is to make the tool that they use to make video games. So their job is to create those tools, but not only create them, but to also maintain them so that developers can get access to those tools and they can use those software tools to make games. Next link in the chain is distribution. These are our marketing and publishing people. This is the sales team. You can have the best game in the world, but if you don't have a team who's able to sell it, then you're not going to make any money off of it. So that's their specialty is making the commercials, getting the reviews in magazines, doing all the things to get the name of that game out there so that people will purchase it. Then we have our hardware folks. These are ones we're really familiar with them too. Our Nintendos and our Sonys and our Microsofts. They're the one, even our mobile device, even our Samsungs for mobile device gamers. These are the organizations who provide the platform for the games to run on, the device or the website for those games to actually be published and run on. And then lastly, in the last link in that chain is going to be our end users mentioned before. This is ultimately the consumer. These are the people who are buying those games and the players of those games. So altogether, this is kind of a big high level view of all of the different major parts that make up the gaming industry. So as you're mapping out your career, look at those different links in the chain and figure out which one of those are of most interest to you. Like I said, because of the classes that you're taking, a lot of you are probably going to be interested in that link that talks about product and talent. But maybe some of you might be more interested in helping design the next generation console. So in that case, you won't be at that product and design layer. You'll be at the hardware layer. You'll be looking to get a job at a Microsoft or at a Sony so that you can be on the team to make the PlayStation by the time you guys graduate, make the PlayStation 7. Right. So use that as a map to help plan out that career. We talked about how other industries branch off, right? I talked about the automotive industry branching off and making all these other industries that support or relate to automotive. Well, the computer industry and the gaming industry continue to branch as well. Computer industry branched off into the gaming industry, and now the gaming industry has even spun off its own sub industries. One is several of them, but the most popular one is called esports. Anybody in the chat? Anybody ever heard of esports? I see a bunch of yeses, right? When I was growing up, parents used to be like, get off the video games. You ain't gonna get no job playing no video games. Well, that's not so true now. With esports, the esports industry is built on skilled gamers who compete at the highest level for spectators. Sometimes they compete in online broadcasts, but a lot of times those esports events will look exactly like this picture that I have here. There'll be an arena full of people watching on big screens while teams of gamers play against each other like it was a basketball a basketball game or a football game, cheering with signs and everything. So esports has become a thing. Just like traditional sports, esports athletes join teams, organizations. They even have entire leagues, and these leagues and organizations build up around certain games. Some of the big esports games, like off the top of my head, Overwatch is huge. They're doing Fortnite now too, as
League of Legends.
Yeah, League of Legends. That's another big one. Some of these gaming tournaments have prizes in the millions of dollars. I've read about the 2019 winner of, I think it was League of Legends. The top prize that he won for winning that competition was $3 million. So this is an industry that's growing right now. Currently, the esports industry is a $950 million industry, almost $1 billion industry in and of itself, and it's projected to grow to a 1.6 billion by 2023. So even as a gamer, there's an opportunity there to get into a subfield of the gaming industry. Now, the one thing I would say about the esports industry versus the gaming industry overall is that just like with becoming a professional athlete, the likelihood of somebody getting one of those top paying spots in esports is like a 1 or 2%. Just like trying to get an NBA contract or trying to get a NFL contract or Major League Baseball or something like that. Because again, they're looking for only performers at the highest level. So you're going to be competing against people from around the world to get one of those spots to be on one of these top tier teams where they're actually making big money. So yes, if you're a gamer and you want to get in esports, go for it, but also, have something else too. Like learn how to create the technology and not just consume it. And here to segue into jobs, and Mr. Thomas, you can actually piggyback on this one too, because there's some other jobs that I don't even have listed here, but these are just some that I pulled off of some of the job boards and some of the salary websites. Like they have a couple on, one's called salary.com. You can go on their website and type in the title of a job, and it'll tell you, how much on average somebody in the United States makes doing that job. And it'll tell you the low, the mid, and the high. So what I did is I took the lowest and the highest and gave you a range of what people typically make around the country working those jobs. All right. So, but all these things I talked about, the size of the industry, all of this points to one thing, and that's the fact that there are a lot of opportunities out there for people who want to create games or people who want to be gamers. These are just some of the job roles that you'll see. Game tester, what they do is they work for a game development company, and as a game is being created, those portions of that game, maybe levels, will be sent to the tester. The tester will play the game and then find bugs. As they find different bugs in the game, they'll write out a report and then provide that report to the developers, the people who are actually writing the code for the game, so that they can fix it before the game gets released. Because the worst thing that can happen, and we've seen that this year, the worst thing that can happen is a game to get hyped up and then get released and then have a bunch of bugs and problems that make it run bad. And then people be like, nope. If you ever heard of the game Cyberpunk, that's what happened to Cyberpunk. They hyped it up for like a year, maybe more. Big release, had commercials with Keanu Reeves from John Wick and all of this. And then when it came out, it had so many bugs and glitches that people were like, nope. And they just abandoned it. So the game tester's job is to make sure that doesn't happen by finding those glitches and bugs and then reporting it to the developers so that they can fix it before release day. Game audio engineer. This one's pretty cool. A game without good music or good sound effects is weak. So the game audio engineer's job is to come up with those cool sound effects, the background music, and they handle all the audio engineering to make that game, make you feel like you're inside that game when you're playing it. Their salary ranges, I didn't mention that before. Game testers on the low end, $18,000 a year. On the high end, $55,000 a year. Game testers is considered an entry-level role in the gaming field. But still, even as entry level, $55,000, that's a lot of money. Audio engineer, starting range $20,000 up to $100,000 as you build your skills. Then you become sought after, and people want to get you, and they're willing to pay top dollar. CGI artist. This is one of those fields that, again, you can take what you learned here. Maybe you learned it to get into the gaming field, but then you can take that same skill and go over to work for Stan Winston. Stan Winston is a big special effects studio out in California. They did all the special effects for like Star Wars and like the Alien movies. Well, they have CGI artists who do special effects, but computer generated special effects. This person starting 37,000, salaries on a high end 76. Good stuff. I see somebody said that their sister does CGI. Game level designers. When you're working on a big game, there's a lot of moving parts. So you don't have like one person building everything. They break those different aspects of the game into different areas, and then they have teams of people work on different aspects of it. So for example, they might have somebody focusing on the characters and how they look and operate. They might have somebody else focusing on the music, the audio. They'll also have somebody focusing on the background. So that's where the level designer comes in. They're creating those open worlds that we like in video games now, where you could just run around all over the place. They're the ones responsible for, developing how those worlds look, how the textures are going to look, making a rock look like a real rock, making the water in the river look like it's really flowing. They're the ones who are designing and programming and coding all of those different aspects. I'm gonna kick it over to Mr. Thomas, so you can tell us a little bit more about some of those roles that you might see in the gaming field. Again, the level design, $39,000 to $86,000 a year.
All right, so there's a couple of more, and what's interesting is that these are ones that you don't really think about. As we were talking about the role in marketing and sort of PR, so public relations. So those who kind of go and when we're interviewing teams, say at like E3 or those sort of big conventions, game conventions, you have public relations and marketing people who will get up and do just like we're doing right now, is talking to you, talking up to the audience about the game. There's other so the writers, we don't really talk much about that. The thing about creating a game is that you have to have a good story. That's the key thing, right? So having good writers, and also another one that we don't think about is people who do so historians. Historians is actually a very important one that we don't really think about because, like, for example, we have like Assassin's Creed. So somebody had to go back and learn the history, the culture, what was happening in that particular area. So like the Valhalla one that just came out, someone had to do the research on, Norse and, the Anglo-Saxon cultures, the weapons that they used, the layouts of the land, the houses that they lived in, the longboats that they used to travel when they would go on these raids. So that's another field that people don't really think about as well. Um, that also feeds into the writing and the story of the characters, even the language. So and a lot of those tend to be more consulting, so consultation. So they'll bring somebody in from the outside and get that, have them consult and get the information on those things. Another group of like artists and designers, part of that or art and design team, you have storyboard artists, because you have your writers who are writing the story, but then you want people to be able to transfer those words into images. And so you have the storyboard artist who kind of breaks things down, scene by scene, to get to help the animators get a understanding of, well, how will each scene play out, that catching all of the major points or major beats within that story. You have graphic designers, as we talked earlier about that, the publishing and all of those things, where it's not just the game itself that the characters are represented in, but all of the product, from cups or t-shirts or whatever product that they may be featured in. You have graphic designers who will create those logos and work alongside the marketing group, to create those products. Even now, much like the film industry, we have video game video games that use motion capture. So that's a whole nother team of people that we have, where they're putting those. You've probably seen, in the making of games, where they'll put all of the little motion capture, uh, you know, uh, the little sensors basically on the face and on the body to basically capture those actors, who will walk in throughout the scene, and basically they'll capture that, and even their image and likeness to the very pinpoints in the details of their faces. So that's another group. And then we also talked about the 3D modeling and rendering. So and we'll talk more about some of the software that's used in that 3D modeling and rendering. Rendering is an art term that means taking an image and adding more of a photorealism to it. So, for example, if I was to take like a circle, if I was to draw a circle, if I wanted to render that circle, I would first, decide where my light source came from. So if it's coming from the left, then I know that that's going to be the brightest point of my circle to create more of a sphere. And then the further away from the light source, we get more and more shadow. So if the light source is coming from the left side, then you'll see a shadow cast on the right side when you draw. And you start to create what they call a gradient. A gradient is sort of layers upon layers of shadows and highlights. And so that's what rendering is in that's in art. And so they do that in 3D modeling. And so that's a little bit of the roles that we have. Concept artist, because you have to start somewhere, So the concept artists, what they do is they will create, the sort of brainstorm, characters, what they would look like, because they go through several iterations, they go through several different forms in the way that they look and design of their costumes or whatever they may have. The environments, concept art, as well as laying the layout and the mapping, because not, when we talk about mapping design, we're talking about those who create games. You have your linear games where you trying to get from point A to point B, like a classic Super Mario game, right? So you're just trying to get from this point to this point. So that's called linear. And then you have free roam. So a lot of you all know more about like a free roam game, like Red Dead Redemption, or like I keep bringing up Assassin's Creed, or Ghost of Tsushima, where you can kind of go in multiple directions. And so you need teams of people to develop those layouts, because they're so, it even like a game where you can go into different buildings. It's not just the streets, or walking through streets, or going through a park, or caves, or all of these different types of environments. You need somebody to lay those out. And so those are just brief examples of the roles. All right.
Awesome. So to finish off this list here on the screen, a lot of the things that Tom touched on were related to some of these. So those character designs he mentioned before, you'll have your folks who do the concept of characters, and then you'll have folks who are down the line might take that concept and fine tune it by using things like motion capture in order to make that character more realistic and more detailed. Video game producer. So the producer is almost like in the music industry, where you have a producer, somebody who's monitoring and overseeing the overall production, making sure that the teams are working together to come up with that final product. You're going to have, that's more of a business person who's overseeing that process to make sure the game gets rolled out the way it's supposed to. You have your video game programmer. Those are your developers. Those are the people actually writing the code to take those characters and game environments and make them function. So they're writing the code to tell, the character to, let's say you got an NPC, a non-player character, like a bot that's walking around your environment. Well, somebody has to tell that NPC what direction to walk in and what path to go. If it's a guard in a castle, and you got to sneak past the guard, well, somebody had to program that guard with a pattern of motion to do. Well, the developer handles all of that. And then finally, we talked about our esports athletes already, and you can see their salary ranges there. It varies greatly, but usually they survey for salaries. The top 500 players in esports, the top 1,000 players. The top 500 players are normally your higher level, and then the bottom 500 they're normally still making money, but they're not making the type of money that people at the top have. So you can see the difference in the range. Cool thing about most of these job roles that I've mentioned here and that Mr. Thomas talked about is that on average, they only require a 4-year college degree. So that's huge, because some industries, in order to make these types of salaries, you go to not only get your 4-year degree, but you might have to go to some extra college. Here, with that 4-year degree, or in some cases even a 2-year degree, if we're talking about like a entry-level job like a game tester, you could be making a really good salary right after you get out of college. So keep that in mind. All right, so these are some of the skills that you're going to look at. We talked about all these job roles. We talked about all the opportunity out there for getting into the gaming industry. Well, how do I start to build those tools so I can take advantage of those opportunities, or build those skills rather, so I can take advantage of those opportunities? Well, you would think that the main thing would be technical skills, but in actuality, just like a lot of other career industries, your management, the people who are going to hire you, they tend to value what we call soft skills a little bit more than technical skills. Don't get me wrong, technical skills are super important, but technical skills can be, I would say, easily taught. I can send somebody to a class to teach them how to use one of the programs that we're going to talk about in a second, or I can give them a video tutorial, or just give them the program and let them play around with it for a couple of weeks, and they can learn the technical skills to utilize that tool. These soft skills take a little bit longer to develop. So as a high school student, if you start working on these now, you'll be put in a good position to be taken seriously when you start going out there to actually look for careers in whatever field. These skills are good no matter what field you go into. The first one is collaboration. We talked about how developers, not just developers, but people working in the gaming industry don't typically work by themselves. They're working in groups. They're working in teams. So that means you have to know you have to have good teamwork. You have to know how to work with people, with other people, and how to collaborate and work together on projects to accomplish some goal. So that's the first skill that you should start developing now. That collaboration, that teamwork aspect, so you know how to work good with other people. Second one is time management. In the gaming industry, there's always this push to get your game out, because you don't make any money until your game gets released and it starts selling. So that means that you're on a pretty strict time schedule in order to get your product released. So having good time management is going to be critical, because as you're working on your piece of that game, somebody else might be waiting for you to finish what you're doing so that they can start their work. So you can do the handoff and hand off what you've been working on. Maybe I'm working on the rendering of a character. Maybe I'm a character artist. I'm working on rendering that character. Somebody's waiting on me so they could put that character into the environment to see how they match up. So having good time management keep you on track to make sure that you're achieving those goals within the deadlines that you've been given. Having critical thinking, being able to be a problem solver is super important in any field, but specifically in a technical field, because you're not always going to be able to Google your way out of a problem. Like for a lot of things, the first thing we do, we have an issue. Oh, how do I do that? The first thing we do is go to Google University or YouTube University, and we start looking up answers. But if you're doing something cutting edge, there might not be an answer out there for you. So you have to have the mindset where you can not get frustrated at a problem, but you can think through that problem and start to come up with solutions that you've created on your own, and figure out a way to kind of scientifically go through the process of testing those different solutions in order to solve the problem. Critical thinking. Fourth, effective communication. You could be the smartest, most technical person in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate your ideas to other people, then what good are they? You got to know how to speak to other people. You got to know how to take that high level knowledge that you have and communicate it in a way that anybody can understand it. So I can tell, an executive, the president of a company, I can speak to the president of that company and communicate an idea to them, but I could take that same idea and talk to someone who has no knowledge of the gaming industry, and I can communicate it to them too. Creativity, huge, especially, of course, in some of the artistic areas, creativity is important, but even in the business aspects too, coming up with creative ways or creative solutions to get things done is always going to make you a valuable employee or a valuable creator. Mr. Thomas already talked about the storytelling aspect. Even if you're not writing the main storyline for a game, every aspect of that development process when you're creating a game helps tell the story. He mentioned before, the way that a character is dressed helps tell the story. The environment that they're in helps tell the story. So even if you're not the one writing the main storyline for the game, you still, if you're involved in that design process, you still play a part in bringing that story to life. Seventh, knowledge of multimedia development software. We're going to look at that in a second. There are tools, just like any industry. So like if I'm a mechanic, there are tools that a mechanic's gonna that are specific to a mechanic's job that's going to help them do their job. They need wrenches. They need, diagnostic computers to test the cars. They need, ratchet wrenches and all this other stuff. So they have a toolkit that works for the type of work that they do. Game developers or people in the gaming industry have their own set of tools as well in order to do their job. Their tools, though, tend to be software related. So they're going to have all these, we're going to talk about some of the different software tools that you can use. And some of these software tools are free. So for those who are really serious about this, you can go download some of these tools for free and start working with them, start learning them, start practicing and getting the foundation of the how to design games right now. Some of the tools are paid, but as students, you might even have the opportunity to get some of these paid tools for free, because one of the things that these companies who build these tools, they want to get students to get used to using their tools. That way, when you get that job in the gaming industry and your boss is like, okay, what product do you want us to buy to make our games? Product A or product B? If you've been using product B since you were in high school, what product are you going to tell them to buy? You're going to say buy product B. So these games, in order to encourage that, they'll give, students either really, really cheap software, like reduce the price of it, or they'll just straight out give it to them for free so that they can learn it, so that when they become professionals, that'll be the tool that they use. Programming knowledge is definitely good, even if you're not going to be the main developer. At least having some foundational knowledge of how computer programming works and the logic behind computer programming is going to be extremely helpful for you. Even if you're on the business side, let's say you're a game producer and you're not even writing any code for the games. In order to talk to your developers and have them respect you when you talk to them, you should at least know what you're talking about to a certain degree. So having that knowledge of programming, of computer programming, allows you to communicate to people who might have more expertise in that. And they can at least see that you know the basics. 9, adaptability, being able to adjust to changing environments. A lot of, you're in a competitive industry like gaming, or the game industry, where you might have your game that you're developing for Xbox might be competing against this other game that's going to come out at the same time. For PlayStation, you want to be able to be adaptive because things change just like that. And you don't want to get set in your ways. You want to always kind of be on the cutting edge. A new tool comes out, you want to be the one who's quick to pick it up and learn how to use that new tool to make your product better. And then last is persistence. Persistence means never giving up. As you're becoming, game designers, developers, getting into the areas or starting to learn about the areas of the game industry that you might be a good fit for. You're gonna be pumped about it to start with, right? You're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm for this. But then maybe you start learning, you start practicing one of those tools, and you find out it's a little bit more difficult than you thought it was going to be. That realism starts to set in. This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Don't give up, because persistence pays off. After you get over that hump of this is harder than I thought it was, if you stick with it, it's going to come a point when things are just going to click. It's all going to come together, and then it's going to help you reach that eventual goal that you set out for to begin with. And that goal is to get into this gaming industry. All right. So those are some of the soft skills, some of the non-technical skills that you should be working on and developing in order to get into this field or any other field. But as far as tools, I'm going to kick that over to back over to Mr. Thomas.
Okay. All right. So, yep. Some of the game development tools that we use, that game art and designers use. Of course, a lot of you may have heard of the Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine, it's getting ready to be in its 5th iteration. We have Unreal Engine 4 there, but it's a game engine developed by the Epic Games creator, Cliff Bleszinski. I was trying to get his last name right. Cliff Bleszinski. He was actually a prodigy. It was created in 1998, the first Unreal Engine, and it uses the C++, which is a form of computer language. That's the language that it uses. So it's different types of computer languages. You may have heard of Python or JavaScript, but yeah, it uses C++. And he was actually a prodigy. I don't know how many of you are about, how many 17-year-olds do we have in the audience today? But that's when he created the Unreal Engine. He was about 17 or 18 years old. And so, you see, it's, it's, never too early to learn. And so that's a great encouragement. But of course, he went and he founded Epic Games, and now, of course, he left Epic, but I think he formed a new production company. But the Unreal Engine is still something that belongs to him, so he's still collecting royalties for creating that graphics engine or that design engine. And what's really cool is that it's one that's not on here, but it's called UDK. It's the Unreal Development Kit. And so that's like the bare bones sort of first iteration of the Unreal Engine. And that is absolutely free. So you can get that. You can Google it, Unreal Development Kit or UDK, and you can get that. Yep, I see somebody in the chat. Maya, of course. Maya is another one for 3D modeling, as well as Autodesk Maya. 3ds Max is another one, as well as another program called SpeedTree, which creates 3D modeling and 3D assets. Assets is another term that's used when talking about sort of NPCs or objects within your 3D environment. So whether it be trees or forest or boxes, so little things like that. Whether it's whether you interact with it or not, it's something that can be created and not just developed, but also rendered within those programs. Going back to UDK or going back to Unreal Engine, they're actually the year before, 2019, they were in talks, if they're not using it already, is the Unreal Engine 5. And what's really cool, one of the cool features about that is that the game artists, they're able to not only design the game, but also test it in real time. So they in the demo that they have, I encourage you to check it out on YouTube. It's really cool demonstration of it, where they were moving the character with just a regular controller, and then they stopped. It's like, oh, I want to add some details to the rocks over here going into this cave. And so they put the controller down, paused it, picked up the controller, and then started adding detail with their mouse to the rocks, to the rock detail in the cave. And then they put in the lighting and all of that stuff. And then they put the mouse down, pick the controller back up, and then start walking their character to that area. And you can see the change in the lighting and the rock effect right there. So that's how awesome this the new iterations that are coming are. But you have a chance to work with those for absolutely free using the UDK to get that basic, that foundational knowledge of how the engine works. And another cool thing, we talk about these programs: Unreal Engine, UDK, 3ds Max, Autodesk Maya, and SpeedTree. And we'll talk about Game Maker in a moment. But what's really cool is that you don't have to have any programming knowledge for those. So computer programming is basically dealing with the coding, putting in the coding of how, this should move, or, uh, how the weather should change, or those things that happen in your environment or your character models. The coding is already built in, and there's a lot of presets for those environments and characters. Okay, and so that's dealing with 3D. Now you have Game Maker. Game Maker is also, I have to check again, but I believe it is a free software as well. If not, like we said, a lot of the companies are offering these products free to students, especially. But Game Maker deals with a lot of you see a lot of the games nowadays that are, the pixel art, in like the 2D overhead and side scrolling games. What's that game that a lot of people, it's really pop? Among Us, where they talk about, you're the suspect, and they had like the group meeting to find out who the suspect is. Somebody, you can design a game like that, a 2D game like that on Game Maker. As a matter of fact, a lot of the big time companies like Microsoft and Sony, as well as Nintendo, they are picking up a lot of these indie developers' games. I went to the Game Maker's website, and they'll have icons next to the game showcases of games that are featured by these little indie developers. Not more than one or two people. So you see, it doesn't take a lot of people to create them. It just takes persistence, as Professor Sanders mentioned, and it takes dedication and passion. So, and this is just one or two people creating these games, but they were so great that, you'll see in the showcase little icons of Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft, where they have picked them up, and now they're selling their games, these indie games, right in their marketplaces. So Xbox Marketplace, PlayStation Network Store, the Nintendo eShop, they have their games being sold now, and they're making profit for those. And so that's another one, the Game Maker. Then we have art and design. So we talked a little bit about coding and programming. I'm sorry, I'll talk about the coding and programming. So you see Java, GNU, Toolchain, Visual Studio. Those are all programming languages for a computer. If basically these different engines use different languages. Java, if you can help me out there, Professor Sanders, Java is particularly used for a lot of the mobile.
Yeah, they mobile and online. Java is a very web-friendly programming language. Um, C++ is what we would call a compiled language. So that means that you're going to write all the code, and then you're going to bundle all of the code into an executable file. So this will be like an example of a game that might run from a disk or something like that, or from a digital download. So there's different programming languages that make it easier to write games for different platforms. And then some of the programming languages are just a matter of, preference for the developer. People get more comfortable programming in one language versus another, or maybe it's easier to program whatever game concept that you're working on in one language than it is in another, then you just go with that. So these are just like tools. Sometimes it might be easier for me to use a regular wrench versus a socket wrench, or sledgehammer versus a regular hammer. I don't know. So you'll choose the right tool for the job. And all of these will just be tools in the developer's toolkit. Even things like web languages, like HTML, those programming languages might be useful, again, depending on where you're publishing this game eventually. Same thing's true for the mobile gaming. So if I'm making something specifically for a mobile device, they're going to have their own, different technologies, different tools for developing on a mobile device versus maybe a PC or a console. And you want to touch on the art and design piece real quick, and then I like to jump into the Roblox piece. I know our time is running up.
Okay, just really briefly, for the art and design, of course we have we see Photoshop there. That's when we talk about Photoshop, that falls under the Adobe suite. So a suite is just a collection of multiple software, and so Adobe is one of the sort of industry standards, not just in game development, but also or design, but also in film as well. So we have Photoshop, we have Adobe Premiere, which is where you learn about video and film editing software. You have Adobe Premiere Rush. Premiere Rush is good for if you are creating online content, online videos like YouTube. Adobe Illustrator. So it's also art design, InDesign. Adobe After Effects is another key one where it's that's you see things from the end credits of a Marvel movie, or even the special effects where you could take a broomstick and spin it around in your film, and then next thing you know, you put it through After Effects, it could be Darth Maul's lightsaber. So that's how they create those special effects, by using Adobe After Effects. Lightroom is also another one that's dealing with photography and photo editing. Spark is good for videos, graphic design, logos, and also for web design. So it uses the HTML language. And then it's so many other ones, so many different programs just within the Adobe suite. I would say about 10 or 15 programs, from creating images, editing photos, to videos, special effects, all the way down to developing invoices. And they just came out with one, a program where they have Adobe has their own conference calls, just like Zoom. And then another one that's interesting is Adobe Aero, where we see like games like Pokemon Go, or even in programs like Amazon, apps, websites like Amazon, where they use that augmented reality. And so that's what that program Aero does. Is it helps with designing games or programs with augmented reality. So with Amazon, you could take a table, and like it says, like put it in your room, and like you could take the image of the table, you can see how it looks in your living room or your dining room or something like that. That's all augmented reality. And so that's just some brief examples of the design software that's used. Okay. So with that, we can go into Roblox. Okay. Roblox is another, of course, free software. It's really what's unique about it is that you can also go into that. Um, they have two different types of Roblox. Of course, there's a Roblox where you play the games, but we're going to also show you Roblox Studio.
All right. Do you want to share your screen, or you want me to share my screen?
You can share your screen.
All right. So I'm gonna minimize this. So like Mrs. Thomas was saying, you have the Roblox game itself, which can be played on a mobile device, it typically is, or you can play it on PC. So this will be an example of the Roblox player. But you also have another tool called Roblox Studio that can be freely downloaded from Roblox website. And what Roblox Studio does is it gives you the programming environment that you need to create your own Roblox game and then publish it. So I'm going to launch the Roblox Studio. In order to get Roblox Studio to work, you have to have a Roblox account. So the first step is go to Roblox on your mobile device or on your computer, and then create a free Roblox account for the game itself. And then you're going to use that same login to get into the developer area in Roblox Studio. I caught an update, so it's taking forever. On Roblox.
Okay. Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I have mine
You
up
got yours
here.
up already?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. You share out your screen.
Okay. Let me go here. Okay. There we go. Okay. Can everyone see?
Yeah, see it.
Okay. Awesome. So this is just a little sample of what I was working on. This was actually based on a story from one of our classes that we teach digital storytelling. Um, and so, of course, it takes place in the city on a rainy evening. Just move this back. So, what's really cool about Roblox is that it has sort of it has a lot of presets. As we were talking about UDK and some of those other 3D programs. So these are some of the features. You can kind of move things around. You can change, the terrain. Uh, all here, this is your what's called on the right side is where I'm scrolling with my mouse. This is your workspace, and these are all of the models. You see the models that you see. You can take them, you can rename them so that you remember what you're working on. And then, just briefly, was going to come up here on on this toolbar, all these toolbars up here. I'm going to go to play. And this is where I can do my test. I can test the areas. Okay, so it's loading right now. So I just got to move this here. Okay. Okay. So we kind of go through. And so the part of the story that we were working on, what was the character's name? It was a
Super
super,
Megan or something like that.
yeah. And so she's going through the city, you know, on a kind of like a rainy day. But basically, this particular character model, it was already preset and was able to go in and adjust the coding on there to be able to, fly, do things like fly. And also, but then if you see the buildings and the cars and things, these are all presets. So you don't have to really start from scratch. And so that's like I said, with like UDK, Dreamweaver, and those I'm sorry, Game Maker, yes, and even Dreamweaver as well. They have a sort of same scenario where things are they have presets there that you could kind of get some practice in and kind of get a general understanding of how things will work. Okay, let's see. You can change the time of day. This is my tab here for to create rain. And they have little icons here where you can kind of move and change the directions and things. So that we can scroll in and placements.
Show,
Well, yeah.
show them the toolbox real quick.
Okay.
So this is an example of the prefabricated items that we were talking that Mr. Thomas mentioned, being able to drop into the game. With the toolbox, you can basically do a search. Like, let's say we wanted to add there's a soldier right there. Or let's say we wanted to add a car. So you go into that search box and you can type car in, and what you'll find is you'll find prefabricated cars that either Roblox, the creators of Roblox created themselves and published to the toolbox, or that ones that were user created. So other users in the Roblox game world created these cars. They use the basic shapes and stuff to make the cars from scratch, and then they published them to the toolbox for anybody to use. So this is a cool example of how, again, with no or low code, you can begin to develop your own game, just utilizing some of the tools that are already in the development environment that you're getting access to. And then I mentioned monetization. One of the ways that a lot of people will monetize Roblox, and again, for those who aren't familiar with Roblox, Roblox isn't just one game. It's a collection of user and company created games, and you can go into each one of these individual worlds. The way they monetize is by in-app purchases. You see that a lot on mobile device games, where you can play the game for free. Like all Roblox games, you can play them for free. But if you want to get this skin or you want to get this specific item, then you'll have to pay Robux. The way you get Robux is by using real bucks to buy Robux, and then you spend the Robux as electronic currency in the game. So where does the Robux go to? It goes to whoever developed that game. So if you create a winning game on the Roblox platform, it can generate revenue for you through in-app purchases. So that might be a motivator. Another cool feature of the Roblox game environment is the fact that you can actually collaborate with other people in real time. So if you were to go, if you go to you can't see it from this screen, but there's an area where you can invite another Roblox, someone who's also registered for Roblox Studio. You can invite them into your game environment, and then you can collaborate and work in real time on developing a game. So You could even, like say you got three other people who are interested in developing a game with you. You can work remotely in real time, working on your game together. Even though, you might be miles apart, you can all hop into the development environment all at the same time and collaborate. All right. So thanks for that brief overview. If you want to learn more about Roblox, we teach an entire class on that, and maybe that's something we could share with your instructors in the CTE office. We only got 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna try to give you a real quick look at our last couple of slides before we wrap up and take any final questions. Let me share out my screen. All right, so the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on really briefly is navigating job boards. So what a job board is a website that you can go to that lists all different types of job postings. This is basically like the digital version of what we used to use what we call the classifieds. Used to be, if you wanted to find a job, you would go get a newspaper, and then you look in the classifieds, and they would have a bunch of companies would list different job openings that they have. Well, that's old school. The way we do it now is we go to different websites, and those websites have the equivalent of those classified ads, and that's what companies will put their job postings. So this is important for folks who are actively looking for a job, like adults, because those job postings can tell us a lot of things. They can tell us the different companies that are hiring, but if you're in what they're paying and the openings that they have, but if you're a student and you're kind of trying to map out what it's going to look like when you finally do decide to get in the job field, you can use those job boards in a different way. One way I suggest using them is to figure out what companies are in your area. So if you want to be a game designer or artist, or you just want to do that certain technical field, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for games. Maybe it could be for movies or some other purpose. You can look for that job title on one of these job boards, and it'll give you an idea of the type of companies who are hiring for that role. So now you can start to build up a list for yourself of the different companies that you might want to, include in your job search when that time comes around. Those job postings will also give you an idea of what the duties and responsibilities are for different job roles. We touched on, we gave kind of like a brief overview of what some of those jobs entail. The job posting, though, will have in more detail the day-to-day duties of somebody who works in that role. Of course, it's going to show the salaries on these job boards. You can restrict where to look for the jobs. So if I say, okay, only look in Baltimore, only look in Maryland, I'll get a better picture of what that job gets paid in Maryland versus the general salary information that I kind of showed you on the other slide. You can also use some of those salary search websites like salary.com to fine tune it too. I just did one for the entire United States. If you wanted to see how much, a character artist makes in Maryland, then you can fine tune the search to make it only look for jobs in Maryland or salaries in Maryland. What you'll find is that depending on what state you're looking in, the salaries may be higher than on average. And then skills required in the job posting, again, is going to tell you the type, and this is really important, it's going to tell you the type of skills that they are looking for out of someone who's going to fulfill that role, and also tell you the level of education they want somebody to have. So do they want them to have a associate's or a bachelor's degree? Can they get it with a high school diploma? What tools they need to learn. So all of these things you can use, and you can pull that information directly from online. I'll show you a quick example of one. I'm going to go to a job board called Indeed. It's a really popular one. So this is Indeed. Well, this is Google, but this is Indeed. and I'm going to search for in Baltimore, Maryland, for game tester role. I'm gonna hit find, and then here's my results. You see, I'm seeing some things that are saying, they're not really lining up with game testers. So I'm gonna refine my search a little bit. I'm gonna say video game tester, and let's see if that gives me some different results. Okay, I got motion graphics. It's giving me some suggestions here. Video game. Let's not use the word tester. Let's say game designer. Sometimes you got to play around with the different titles because not all jobs name things the same way. I'm gonna put the game tester back in there and look at some of those. Contract quality assurance tester. All right, so this company here, ZeniMax, I know from doing previous research, ZeniMax is a video game development company. So they're calling their game testers now contract quality assurance testers. And so as we click on that job title and we look at some of the details, this lines up exactly with what we said a game tester does. Complete assigned test requests and identify game issues or bugs. Enter accurate, high quality game issues based on department standards. So this is telling us what that job involves. Here we see the qualifications. You need to understand the test process. You need the ability to learn quickly. You need to know how to use Microsoft Office. Remember we talked about those soft skills, strong verbal and written communication, good organizational skills, excellent interpersonal and conflict resolution skills. So like we said before, those soft skills are super important. And then now here we see some preferred skills. So these are the must-have, the qualifications. That's the things that you absolutely have to have. These are ones that'll set you apart from other people. So this is important. You look at these might be things that you can start developing now that might help you, be a better fit. And in their preferred skills, they have bachelor's degree. So that means that it's not a requirement. You don't have to have the bachelor's degree to be a game tester. If you are really good and you're hitting all the check boxes under these qualifications here, and then you got a few of these preferred skills, maybe experience and understanding of console and PC game testing, that could be something that you can work on yourself. There's a software program called Jira that they use for ticket tracking. You could download a free copy of Jira, get a free subscription to Jira and learn how to use that website. And that can give you another preferred skill. Experience with first party platforms. You can play your video game systems like Xbox and PS4, and that'll give you that experience. So now you got a couple of preferred skills checked off. So you get your qualifications knocked out, get a couple of these preferred skills, and you might be able to get this gig without even having a bachelor's degree. They don't list, not every job posting lists a salary, but that's why we have websites like salary.com, because that way you'll have a good general understanding of how much that pays. So if I go to here, Baltimore, Maryland, I'm on salary.com right now, and I put that, I'm going to use the title that they use, quality assurance tester. And I search that, see if it comes back with enough results to give me a estimate. Software quality assurance tester, that we can use that one. And we'll view the salary information for it. And we can see that on the low end, annually in the Baltimore area, the salary is $23,000. The median salary, what people make in the median is 38, almost 40,000, and then the higher end of that is 44,000. So this is a good tool to use as well. All right. And that's just one of the job boards. There's a lot of other job boards out there that you can utilize, different resources. A couple that I mentioned here, Indeed, I mentioned already. I just showed you that one, monster.com. Dice is specifically for IT related stuff or computer related stuff. So you'll find a lot of technical jobs on that one. And then Career Builder. All right. We're a couple minutes over, but are there any questions that you guys have, that maybe we haven't touched on yet? If so, go ahead and drop them in the chat and bring my chat back up so that we can address.
Professor Sanders, thank you
Yes.
so much. I actually put 2 questions in from an instructor who couldn't join us. Check up in the chat just a little bit. I know we're all a little over, so if you could just bear with us.
Okay.
I want to make sure that Professor Sanders answers your questions.
Scrolling up. All right. Teacher, what are entry-level job titles I can expect this? Okay, the question was, what are the entry-level job titles I can expect to see when looking for game design jobs? So for design, you can look, you might see a video game programmer. You might see video game developer, video game designer, and then remember there are those other sub aspects of design, character design, mocap for motion capture, 3D modeling. So those would be some of the types of jobs that you would see, job titles. And then there'll be within each one of those roles, there's typically a progression from entry level up into like a more experience. So you might have a video game developer level 1, and that's like a newer person, an entry level person. A level 2 is a more intermediate level developer, and a level 3 is a senior level developer. So it'll be the same job title. It'll just be a level number beside it. And then what is the typical day like working in game design? I think that's going to vary from design shop to design shop, and depending on what project you're working on. So a lot of the work that game developers do is very project driven. So they might have times where they're not working on projects. That means they're just kind of building their skill set. But then when they got a new title that they're about to start working on, then that becomes a I won't call it a short-term project, but it'll be like, okay, for the next 2 years, we're going to be working on this project. And that's what's going to dictate what their day-to-day looks like.
I think another student wanted to know, can they play video games for money?
Yeah, that's what esports athletes do.
Yeah,
they play. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, well, also from esports, but then also if you are, Twitch streamers, and also the people who play, games on YouTube. So if you build enough subscribers, then of course you could generate revenue.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to did anyone else have any other questions? Professor Sanders, do you want to share about the internship that Pass It On has for students?
Yes, let me actually pull that up on my screen share real quick. So currently, Pass It On is recruiting. We have a 6-week internship opportunity. This one is related to web design, which is actually a good kind of tags along with what you guys are learning. Because remember, we said a lot of the games now are being released on web-based platforms. So you got your mobile games, things like that. They're web-based. So having a good foundation in web technology can be helpful even for the gaming industry. So this particular internship, again, is a 6-week paid internship where you're going to be working as a youth web design intern. You're going to be learning the ins and outs of how to do turnkey websites using some of the different, we're using a platform called Wix, which allows you to do drag and drop and low code website building. But there's also aspects of HTML that you'll use to fine tune your designs. You'll also be learning what they call social media marketing and management. That's basically when a company uses social media in order to promote itself, or organization uses their social media to promote their whatever their mission is or whatever their organization is. So with this program, we'll be actually creating websites for 6 community organizations in Northwest Baltimore. So specifically, the interns that we're looking for will ideally live in Northwest Baltimore, or at least West Baltimore. The 6-week program is a work study. So you get 5 hours a week at the rate of $12 an hour. Of those 5 hours a week, 2 hours are going to be spent working on some type of study project that we assign you that's going to be related to web design or social media marketing and management. And the other 3 hours will be working either with myself or someone from my team to actually work on these websites. There's an additional bonus, $140 bonus. We call it a finish line bonus. So if you finish all the projects that we assign to you and you make it through that 6-week program, then at the end, and successfully at the end of it, you get an extra $140 check. And then the whole goal of this, though, is to build some valuable real world skills. This is the type of stuff you put on your resume. And even if you're going to college, it sets you apart from, other people applying for the college that you're trying to get into. And if you're going right into the workforce, definitely having something like this on your resume, being involved in a technical internship where you actually got a chance to do some hands-on work is going to set you apart from other applicants. To apply, you need to be between the ages of 15 and 18. You need to live or attend school in Northwest Baltimore City. You need to be actively enrolled with a GPA of 2.5 or higher. And then you have to have an interest in information technology. I'll share this flyer with Ms. Bones, and then she can distribute that. And if you're interested, fill out the online application, or you can give our office a call or email